Welcome to These Are the Blades of Our Lives, the figure skating show where I talk to you guys about figure skating like it is drama for our mama. We have come to the end of the figure skating portion of the Olympic with the conclusion of the women's individual event. I am exhausted, drained, completely kaput. And as always, I like to take a little bit of time to process what happened at the event before I share my thought with you guys. Normally I do like individual skaters, but I'm gonna do the short and the long program separately because the variation of emotions that I felt during the event was so much that I feel like I needed to take some time to just properly process everything that happened in those two disciplines. So I'll go the way the skaters perform. So we started off with Adelia Petrosian. I watched that short program. She was very tentative. Her jumps were very small. They didn't meet any of the bulletin requirement that the ISU gives to us and the judges. There wasn't much height. There wasn't much ice coverage. There wasn't much power in or out of the jumps. The program itself, presentation, I will give to Adelia. She was presenting those programs like her life depended on it, which for this poor child, it probably did. Composition, listen, Daniel Gleikenhack, he of the endless leg kick, you have not been missed by me. There was no composition to that program except that child going around and kicking up her legs. Skating skill, if we're being bluntly honest, Petrosian's skating skills have been sacrificed so that she can focus on quad. After I finished watching that short program, to me, it was a 66-point short program. Yet, when they gave her the 72, my immediate reaction was, well, at least it's not an 80. That, guys, was my true and honest opinion. Because my expectation for the International Skating Union and the judges, the tech callers, is so low that the fact that they did not give her the 80 plus that I was expecting almost felt like the ISU was trying to do better. Because they could have given her an 80. If we're being perfectly bluntly honest, they could have given her an 80. Why? Because we literally saw this very same institution give Alexandra Sasha Trusova a 74 with a fall, putting her ahead of Wakaba Higuchi, who did a triple axel and was clean. We've seen this happen before. The Iteri bonus has been alive for almost 20 years. So when I saw this child did not get an 80, I was like, well, at least they don't want to give her the gold medal. They're only putting her in position to get the gold medal. And that is the level of abusive relationship that I have with figure skating. This knowledge that this institution, this sport is so unbelievably corrupt that when they're corrupt only by 6 points and not by a whole 20 point, I feel like at least they're trying to do better. That was my honest reaction to Adelia Petrosian getting a 72 instead of an 80. Well, at least they want her to work for the gold medal. They're not going to give it to her on a silver platter. And then, as the competition happened, Ryung Zhang came, had one of her best short program this season. I thought, oh my gosh, they're gonna reward her. They buried her. Again, I was like, unfair, but I've seen so much worse. I guess it is what it is. Then we had one of my favorite short program of that event, Familia Sutter. When I say her jumps clicked off all of the bulletin points that the ISU gives to us and the judges. The jump was high. It had ice coverage. It was powerful. It was beautiful. She skated with so much passion. She gave everything. She was fully living her dream. And I was like, the judges have to reward this. Nah. They buried her behind. And I was like, you know what? That's a little unfair, but I've seen so much worse. That was my mental state going into the women's event. Olga Meltekina also did a very nice short program for her, but I wasn't expecting her to be rewarded. Then by the time we got to the third group, GS Chen came, unfortunately, too close to the board, and her combination, down she went. I was like, unfortunately, honey, they're gonna bury you. Even if you have beautiful spins, even if you have beautiful footwork, even if you are one of the most musical skaters, you are getting buried. Buried she got. Ekaterina Karakova, Kimi Rippon, they skated within their capability. Kimi Rippon is coming back from injury, so her being here was her Olympic. Ekaterina Karakova, we all know those jumps are unimaginably cheated, but she's such an emotive, performative skater. And the goal for her for the Olympic was to just make it to the free program. And made it, she did. So she already had her Olympic moment. Then we got to Sofia Semendelkina. This child came out in the short program and gave me some of the most gritty jumps I had seen. The jumps were juicy. She was jumping from her thigh, putting a little girth into it. And you know how much I love me a girthy jumper. But more importantly, she was shimmying. She was cartwheeling. She was selling that program. She was eating up the ice and leaving no ice crumb. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to reward her. Nah. No. Your behind is going into the 60s. Again, it wasn't fair, but it wasn't as bad as what I was expecting. Then Hyen Lee came out. Probably performed the best we've seen her all season. Her jumps look amazing. The tech caller who went on a smoke break for Adelia Petrosian suddenly came back for every other skater. Because while Petrosian got no call, the other skaters, they were giving out cues, edges, carrots, like they were Oprah Winfrey. Cue for you, edge for you, cue for you, carrot for you. They were giving it out like they were the Oprah Winfrey of the figure skating Olympic. Okay, it was what we were expecting. I'll take it with a grain of salt. After Hyen finished her performance, gave us her fabulous step sequence, did her jumps, I was like, okay, they're going to reward her. They let her break 70. And they probably felt she should be grateful that they even let her in the 70 category. No worries. We get to group 4. Amni Nakai, that demon baby, that young, fresh 17-year-old. And I always tell you the young, fresh 17-year-old is the dark horse for the Olympic because they just love crowning new skaters at the Olympic as Olympic champion. She came. She gave us a beautiful triple axel. She gave us textbook jumps. She had a smile on her face from start to finish. There was not 1 second of that performance in which she was not just glowing with joy. And I was like, this has to break 80. This has to break 80. No, they gave her a 78. Why? Because Adelia Petrosian has to be within a range. to get on the podium or to get a medal. And other skaters cannot be given too high of a score because then it makes things more difficult. So when I saw that 78, I thought, you know what? Yuna Aoki probably had one of the most beautiful short programs at the four continent, and she couldn't even break 70. So the fact that they gave Amni Nakai a 78 here, not the worst thing that I have ever seen. Not the worst. Was it unfair? Yes. Was it the worst? No. Why? Because I was expecting so much worse from this abusive relationship that I found myself in with figure skating. Poor Madeline Skizas, she came here. She really wanted to do a good job. Unfortunately, things did not work out for her. People on Twitter, stop bashing her. She said what she said over her dead body. You know, she wanted to make the free program. You know, she wanted to make the long program. But sometimes the best laid plans don't quite work out. And that's what we had here. Keep your head up, Maddie. Keep your head up. Don't let them get to you. Then Miss Luna Hendricks at her fourth Olympic. I did not realize this is Luna Hendricks' fourth Olympic. I thought it was her third. No, at her fourth Olympic, coming back from surgery. Again, she had one of her best short program here. And I was like, you know what? Luna is a fan favorite. They're going to reward her. They're going to give her what she needs to make it into the final six. Oh, no. They did not. Because again, they had to keep Petrosian within striking distance of the podium and within striking distance of the gold medal. Okay, it is what it is. I was expecting so much worse, so took it with a grain of salt. Then we saw Lara Naki Gutman. You guys know how much I love Lara, how much I love both of her program this season, how much I wanted this for her. But at the end of the day, she did her job in the team's event, and I feel like she just didn't have that much left in the tank to get to where she needed to be. She just did not have enough in the tank. And so the short program didn't go the way she was expecting it to go. Okay, I understand. We get to Nina Pinzaroni. She's prone to under rotation. So I already knew the same tech caller that went on the smoke break for Adelia was going to be on espresso time for Nina Pinzaroni. And she was going to get ding on everything. I'd expected it. So it was what it was. But then we had Nina Petrokina. Another one of my girthy jumper. Another skater who attacks. Another skater who fights. She got all the calls. All the calls. Because we're not going to let her into the top six. We're not going to knock out Petrosian for her. Nah. She's getting all of the edge calls and then some. Okay. Again, it was within the expectation. It could have been worse. We get to the final group. I'm like, this is where we're going to see what happened. This is where we really get to see how this is going to play out. Isabel Vito goes out. You guys know I love Isabel skating, but I hate her jumps. I've personally screamed it at the top of every mountain that I feel like her jumps should be getting negative GOE. However, for 2 years that I've been screaming this, the International Skating Union, ISU judges and tech callers have been blind, deaf, and dumb. Yet all of a sudden, when they needed to keep Isabel Levito out of the top six, when they needed to be creative, I swear, whoever hosts the math Olympiads need to have a conversation with the International Skating Union judges and the tech callers, because I have never seen such mathematical precision shenanigan as what we saw with the grade of execution. The GOE literally put the math Olympiads to shame. The way they managed to fix these scores. You get a 38, you get a 38, you get a 38. Everybody is getting a 38. The way they fixed the scores so that every skater would be right under what they gave to Petrosian was a thing of beauty. You have to give the International Skating Union judges for doing their jobs. They went to those white envelope dinner with Iteri and they did the job. Because the way they buried poor Isabella Vito, even though I am not a fan of her jump, the way they buried her, I was like, oh, now we can see everything. Now we can call everything. Okay, this is what we're doing. Absolutely fine. Then Alyssa Liu came out. And I was like, she's an American darling. They're gonna, just give it to her. Alyssa came with her standard relax, lay back, calm. I'm here for the moment. I'm having the time of my life. Did that beautiful short program the way she's done that beautiful short program all season long. Are we getting calls now? Now we're seeing the jumps have issues? I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. If they are going after Alyssa, then we know what this situation was. If they are going after Alyssa, we already knew what the situation was. Gave her 76.59. Okay. Within the range of expectation. Was not having an issue with it. Anastasia Gabanova came. She skated. It was clean. She stayed on her feet. Honestly, you guys know I am a huge fan of Anastasia Gabanova. But I thought they were going to bury her. Because, Iteri doesn't like her. And whatever Teamplushenko says goes with the International Skating Union. So I honestly thought, because the judges usually do not go with Gabanova. But I feel like they needed that Eastern European backup plan in case things didn't quite go the way they expected it. They needed someone of Russian descent into that mix. And they were like, we're limited. Gabanova is the best we have. We're sticking her up in that top 6 as a precaution. We've seen this before. It happened in Sochi, where they needed the backup to be like, okay, we're going to put you in there because things didn't quite go the way we anticipated it. I was like, okay, again, not anything that was surprising, within expectation. Kaori Sakamoto came. She was a little tight on the jumps, I'll say that, but she was beautiful. Gave us just a beautiful program. Lively, ice coverage, depth of edge, girthy jumps, beautifully centered spin. Gave her a 77. They gave her a 77. So they were trying to tell me that the difference in presentation, composition, and skating skills between Kaori Sakamoto and Petrosian was 4 points, a little over 4 points. What could I say? Again, I had to go back to at least they didn't give her an 80. At least they weren't telling us that Adelia Petrosian has better skating skills than Kaori. At least they weren't telling us Petrosian had better presentation than Kaori. At least they weren't telling us that she was an 80-point skater. Again, the relationship is so toxic. My expectation is so low, so at the bottom, that I was resigned to this. I didn't get angry. I didn't get upset because my expectation was so much worse that I was like, okay. Then Mona Sheba came out, skated her short program. After she finished, they told me that the difference between Mona Sheba, probably one of the best skater of her generation. We're talking in terms of musicality, in terms of performance, in terms of presentation, in terms of edge control. They told me that Mona Sheba was only 2 points difference between her and Adelia Petrosian. They told me that there was only 2 points, a little over 2 points in skating skills, composition, and presentation between Mona Sheba and Adelia Petrosian. I was like, I don't think so. But whatever you guys are smoking, you should probably package it and sell it because you would make a fortune. But again, at least they weren't telling me Adelia was better than Mona Sheba. So, because my expectation was so low, I accepted it. Then last to skate, Amber Glenn. Amber, I love that short program. That Madonna short program is one of my favorite short programs this season. She came in and I was praying so hard, guys. I was praying so hard. All of the candles were lit. I was praying. By the way, I went through a lot of candles doing this event. Candles was lit all over the place for everybody and their mamas. I was praying so hard that this would be her Olympic moment, that she would do everything that she could. And it started off beautifully. It started off beautifully. That triple axel was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Then she managed to do her combination with speed and power. Everything was going wonderfully. And then we get to the last jump, the loop. And she doubles it. And unfortunately, at the Olympics, a double doesn't count. So she ends up with nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I was like, the judges are going to bury her. They are going to bury her. They wanted this opportunity to bury her, and they were going to bury her. And they did. They put her in 13th place. And so after that short program was finished, again, guys, I wasn't angry. I wasn't upset. I wasn't enraged. I was remarkably calm. I had come to the conclusion that Adelia will likely be on the podium and probably even win the gold medal. After that short program, that was where my thinking was. I wasn't fighting that. It was, again, when you are in a relationship that you know is toxic, when you are in a relationship that you know is negative, when you are in a relationship that you know you probably should not be in. I probably should stop watching figure skating, but I also know that I love this sport so much that I probably can never do that. And so, given that that was the situation, the only thing I could do was accept it. And that's what I did. I accepted the fact that more than likely we were going to have Adelia Petrosian on the podium, and probably likely the I30 bonus would put her in first place. So I went into the free skate, I went into the long program with that mindset. And with that mindset, I tried to enjoy the skating as much as I could enjoy the skating. You know, Livia Kaiser had some beautiful jumps in her program that I truly enjoyed. Then you had Ekaterina Karakova with her Moulin Rouge program. She was so performative and entertaining. So I really took the moment to enjoy that. Ruyang Zhang continues to improve. Her jumps are very small, but she's very petite, which is understandable. But she came out and she did so well for her first Olympics. So I enjoyed that. Julia Julia Sutter continued to impress me with some of the most beautiful jumps in that competition. The girthiness of her jump was just amazing. I loved watching her perform and knowing her story, knowing she had to work so many part-time jobs to cover her skating, knowing that this Olympic was a dream for her, and having her go through all the struggles and coming here and having the kind of performance that she had. I was delighted to see it. So at this point, the only thing I'm thinking is I just need to enjoy the process. I just need to enjoy the skating as much as I possibly can, because the rest of it was beyond my control. And that's what I did, was just enjoy the skating. Lara Naki Goodman came back from her short program and she fought that shark. That Jaws program is so wonderfully on note. Every moment precise. Technically, the jumps are not as, competitive as some of the other skaters. But in terms of uniqueness, in terms of like presentation, composition, she was wonderful. So I enjoyed that performance. Luna Hendricks, again, this is a woman who's been to 4 Olympics, coming back from injury and skating to the best of her physical ability in that moment. By the way, the fact that she changed her short program music and it works so well. Listen, I'm a huge fan of Celine Dion and figure skating, but that music I felt worked much better than the original music that she was skating to. And then she came out in the long program and we honestly got to see her fight. It wasn't the best that she could do, but boy, do we see what made her a 4-time Olympian. And I was there for it. Nina Pezzaroni, again, another lovely skater. Probably needs a little more height on her jump so they can stop burying her with under rotation. Really looking forward to see what she can do in the next 4 years. Then Isabella Vito. I am such a huge fan of all of the things about Isabel's skating that is incredibly positive, which is her positioning, which is her musicality, which is her presentation. Unfortunately, her coach decided to teach her that teamplushenko jump technique. And so literally when she goes into her jump, she makes a 90-degree bow to the ice, like the ice is her ancestor. And that jump technique, you can only truly maintain that jump technique if you weigh between 60 to 105 pounds. That jump technique is created for prepubescent body type. That jump technique cannot stick with you as you mature, as puberty hit, and it does eventually hit. And unfortunately, she has probably the worst version of that technique out there. And that is so unfortunate because she is such an exquisite skater with so much potential. And so it's so devastating to see her with that jump technique. And so I had nothing to say with her placement because it was what I had been saying for 2 years, that her jumps, they're problematic. But it was hard to see this happening to her at the Olympic. The judges could have done this 4 years ago, 2 years ago, given her the opportunity to fix her jumps, and they didn't. And instead they waited and they buried her at the Olympics, which was devastating to see. Then Jia Chen, a skater that I'm fully invested in to see what happens to her in the next 4 years. She came, there was a fall, but you see all of those great aspects to her skating. Her beautiful edge work, her beautiful position and spin, beautiful hand movement, beautiful tilting of her head, nice arch back, soft knee bend, everything that you guys know aesthetically I love in a skater. Gia came and she showed at her first Olympic at 17. So the potential is definitely there, and I want to see what happens with her 4 years to come. Sofia Semendokina continues to impress me with the girthiness of her jumps. And what really is upsetting in Sofia's case is this was a skater who knew she would always be buried if she stayed skating for Russia. And so she made a conscious decision to go find another federation, to leave Russia, to leave the country, to come out so that she could make it to the Olympic. She still got buried behind an Teamplushenko skater. She knew in Russia she would never get to fully compete internationally because within Russia it is fully understood that the only skaters who get international, competition assignment, who gets to go to the Olympics are Teamplushenko skaters. Because she knew this, she made this decision to come out. She still got buried, which was sad because her jumps were some of the best of the night in terms of height, in terms of, ice coverage, in terms of meaning, in terms of girthiness. She gave it all to me. But in the grander scheme of people being screwed, she wasn't even in the conversation. Anastasia Gabanova. I guess they were like, we don't really need her that much. So Tech Caller went to work on her. Hyen Lee, when she said she was skating to Carmen, I was like, ooh, Carmen, really? You know what? She sold that Carmen. She sold that Carmen today. This is the best that I've seen her perform, I would say, in a year. She did everything that was required of her. She did not leave a stone unturned. She gave it all to us. And she finished top 10, an 8th place finish. And I had said in my prediction that a top 10 finish is an incredible finish for her. And she finished top 10. Nina Petrokina. Again, another skater who just has jumps to me that are meaningful. Her jumps to me have so much power. And I wondered if they hadn't buried her in 10th place in the short program, if maybe she could have broken into the top 6. If maybe she could have broken into the top 6. But as the European champion, coming back from injury, to have this kind of performance, you can tell this skater, when she's fully healed, will be in the conversation. Then we did get to the top 6. We did get to the top 6. And 6th place was Adelia Petrosian. We saw the Iteri special where this child was literally crying, saying how much pain doing the quad toe caused her. And when that program started, you could see the weight of the world on that child's shoulder. You could see how tense her body was. And when she went into that quad, her body literally prepared itself for the pain. You could see it in her face. You could see it in her body language. She was prepared to feel the pain that this jump was going to cause her. And of course, she went into the quad. She doesn't have the speed. She doesn't have the height to do a quad. She doesn't. And from the very entrance of that jump, you knew that poor child was going to fall. And fall she did. And then we literally watched her struggle through that program. Her jumps were so pre-rotated, it was painful. It was painful on her and it was painful on me. Because, as I have said in my mini rant, we all know how much pain and suffering this child is going through. We all know how much pressure this child is under, and we all feel for her. Our heart breaks for her. We want her to be able to achieve the best, but at the same time, she is a representation of a system, the teamplushenko system, that is the embodiment of everything that is wrong with figure skating. The drugging, the child abuse, the forcing of having a skater body do something that they physically cannot do, the skating through the pain, the belittlement, everything that is wrong with this sport. Her team is the embodiment of it. The reducement of skating skills for difficult elements. Everything that I dislike about the sport, her team is the embodiment of it. And so as much as I felt for this child, as much as my heart breaks for this child, I could not support the institution that she represented. I couldn't. I could not bring myself to do that. Because to me, to have the Iteri era continues is so detrimental to the sport. And for me, above all else, the sport is what I am a fan of. And so we watched this poor child literally struggle through that program. And we felt the unnecessariness of it all. Because there were other skaters in Russia, skaters who were healthy, skaters with fully rotated jumps that could have been sent to this Olympic if they really needed to send a neutral athlete from Russia. They had other options. But because of the chokehold that teamplushenko has on figure skating, on the International Skating Union, on the Russian Figure Skating Federation, they sent this poor child who was in pain. For what? For what? And so we saw that performance, and we saw the score that performance got. And we understood that the teamplushenko bonus was very much alive and well. And we understood that next season, when the Russian athletes come back, and Eteri comes back with a new batch of products, because that is what these young women are to her. That is what these skaters are to her. That is how she refers to them. When she comes back with her new batch of product onto the international arena, the Eteri bonus will be well. We will see her skaters with their pre-rotated jumps getting 10 points higher than their competitors. That was the signal that the score that Adelia got sent to me. That nothing has changed. Nothing was learned. There have been no progress in this sport. and having the WADA commissioner or whoever the hell he was saying he's uncomfortable with having Eteri at the Olympic. Well, do something about it. You are the governing body. That should have fixed that. This is your fault. So shut up. We don't want to hear that from you because you guys could have fixed that and you didn't. Eteri Tuberidze has been what? Coaching this entire quad while the child that was drugged by her had to be the one that's banned. She's been living her best life. So we don't need to hear that from you. If you're not going to do anything about it, shut up. So this was the score that we got for Adelia. And I was surprised. I honestly thought that even with the fall on the quad, I honestly thought even with her pre-rotation jumps, the judges would have put her ahead of Amber and that the judges would have literally inflated her scores. And the fact that they didn't was quite surprising to me. I will be perfectly honest. It was quite surprising to me. Then we got to 5th place, Amber Glenn. While the short program did not go the way she wanted it, or the way we hope it would have went for her, she came back in that long program, and this is where the mental health work really shows. This is where you know she's invested in strengthening herself, not just physically but emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually, because she came out in that long program as a fighter. She went into that triple axel and it was a thing of beauty, height, distance, power, speed in, speed out. Textbook, beautiful triple axel. Then she attacked each and every one of her jumps. It wasn't until she got to the very last jump where she had a hand down. But even with that hand down, she was fighting to stay on her feet. One of the best performances that we have seen from Amber all season. And for it to be at the Olympic, for it to be her long program, really shows why mental health groundwork is so important for these athletes. It's so important for us as human beings. I'm a huge fan of mental health, working on ourselves, of being in a safe space, of being able to emote our emotion and processing what is going on with us. I'm a huge fan of that. And I'm especially a huge fan of it for these athletes who are under such tremendous pressure. So to see her come back and fight the way she did was absolutely amazing. Then we got Mona Shiba. That Romeo and Juliet program, she performed it to the absolute best that she could in that moment under the pressure that she was in. Could some of the jumps have been a little cleaner? Could her body have been more relaxed? Yes. Yes to all of these things. But she did everything that she could. And I have to say, a blue dress for Romeo and Juliet is definitely a choice. Blue is not usually a color that I associate with Romeo and Juliet. I thought she was going to keep, the previous red dress, but no, she went with a blue dress. Very interesting. Then finally we got to our podium. Amni Nakai, one of the younger skaters to be competing here. I think we had 3 or 4 skaters who are 17 competing here. Jia Chen is 17, I think, and we know Amni Nakai is 17. I believe Lida Kernan might also be 17. And there was I think there's one more skater who was skating here who's 17. I can't remember. Yes, so I think Ruyang Zhang may also be 17. So one of the 17-year-old skaters competing here. She went last because she was first in the short program. Went into that triple axel. No issue, no problem. Textbook. first half of her competition, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. History might repeat itself, and we may end up in a situation where the young skater who comes out of nowhere, the dark horse, ends up with the Olympic title. And then she went into her triple combination and completely fell out of the second jump. And I was like, no, because the advantage she had over Kaori and over Alyssa was literally, I think, 2 points or 1 point and change. She did not have the room to make a mistake. She literally had to be perfect. And with that combination out the window, I was like, oh. But she didn't let that combination bother her. She continued to skate, continue to deliver, continue to get each of the jumps out there. And she still managed to give you beautiful glide across the ice, to show her depth of edge, to show her control over her body, to show her musicality, the openness with which she skates. What I love about Amni is that she is the inviting kind of skater. She skates in a way where she invites us as the audience to come in and participate in her performance. And that is an aspect of her skating that I hope they continue to grow, because she could be an incredible skater in the future. But after the missing of her combination, she just didn't have enough of a cushion in the short program. And so she ended up in third place. And Lord, I have never seen a happier third place finish. Maybe the Italian team, when they found out they won that bronze medal, they were ecstatic. Amni Nakai was equally as ecstatic with her bronze medal. Her little face, she's so adorable. Her little face just light up with joy, and she was bouncing all over the place. She was so adorable. I just wanted to pinch her little cheeks. She was so cute. So happy with her program by Kaori Sakamoto. Je ne regrette de rien. And you should regret nothing, Kaori. You went into that long program and you gave it everything you had. There was so much pressure. You wanted that gold medal so badly, and I feel like collectively the majority of the figure skating community wanted that gold medal for you. We wanted it because of what it would represent, the longevity of your career, the truth of your skating. You were a skater who decided early on, I can't do a triple axel. It's not within my physical mean. I'm not going to go for a quad. What I am going to do instead is I'm going to do quality skating. Every jump, I'm going to go into it with speed and power. I'm going to give you height. I'm going to give you distance. I'm going to come out of it with speed and power. I'm going to work on my skating skills. I'm going to work on my edge. I'm going to work on my knee bend. I'm going to work on my spin position. I'm going to work on my presentation. Every year, Kaori grew a little. And the joy with which you always show to the audience, to the fan, your happiness was contagious. It was wonderful to see you grow from that little girl who was on the junior circus to go into your first Olympic, your second Olympic, the joy that you had at winning that bronze medal in Beijing. Then to watch you continue on your journey, continue your growth, to see the courage and dignity with which you took everything that came your way, and to see you perform that program. And when you went into the combination, and you knew and we knew, unfortunately, you did not have enough of a cushion to be able to afford a mistake. And when that triple combination did not work out, Yet you continue to skate with courage and grace. And when you got off that ice and your face crumbled because you realized that very likely the dream that you cherished so deeply was gone from you, I think collectively our heart felt that pain. But there are so many incredible champions who do not have that Olympic champion title, who do not have the gold medal, yet it no ways diminished them. Michelle Kwan is and will always be the GOAT of her era. Mao Asada is and will always be one of the greatest figure skaters to ever touch the ice. And you are now in that same league as a skater that has enriched the sport to such a level that you have inspired a whole new generation. Your story of longevity, of skating with grace and integrity, of kindness, of joy is so much more than a medal. Yes, it would have been a textbook fairy tale finish had Kaori won that gold medal. The same way it would have been a fairy tale and textbook finish had Michelle Kwan been a double Olympic gold medal champion. The same way it would have been a fairy tale finish had Yuna Kim rightfully been given the gold medal that she won in Sochi. But life is not a fairy tale. Life is reality. And what we got was the story and the journey of an incredible young woman, of an incredible skater, of an incredible human being. And that one medal does not in any way diminish what she means to the sport. You are and will always be Queen Kaori, thick jump, girthy Queen Sakamoto. And I know that's not a consolation to that gold medal you wanted so badly. But I hope you understand how much you are appreciated and how much you are loved. And the winner of this event, probably the most laid back winner of an Olympic medal in any figure skating event in the history of figure skating, was Alyssa Liu. She came out for that long program like she was competing at a senior B. There was no tension. I don't even think she fully realized she was at the Olympic competing in a long program. She came, she did her job and had a blast doing it. She went into every jump with this. Her body had no tension. Her face had no tension. If she had some, she is probably the world best actress at hiding it, because we saw none of it. She was relaxed from the end of her hair to the tip of her toes. She came and did it like it was practice. And it was beautiful to see. Not just the jumps that were so relaxed, the spins were relaxed. She was performing to the audience. She won by having fun. In a sport that is so stressful, that is so incredibly difficult, to have her do that. And Alyssa herself is another story of triumph. She was that girl that was in the similar situation as the Iteri girls. Being an incredibly young champion, having the weight of the world put on her shoulder, having the expectation of the federation put on her shoulder, having the expectation of her country put on her shoulder, being crushed by that expectation. Then deciding to step away from the pressure to live her life the way she wanted to live it. And then to have her voluntarily come back to the sport, to make her own choices, to take control of her skating, of her career, of who she is, to have a voice in every aspect of her skating. And to come on the Olympic ice and to give 3 of the most relaxed performances I've ever seen. 2 short programs, 1 in the team event, 1 in the individual event, identical almost, relaxed, calm, no stress. And then to come and deliver a long program that would determine her being on the podium at the Olympic, and just do it like it was nothing. The joy, the calmness was absolutely incredible to see. And to have her walk away with a gold medal, to send that signal to the rest of the skating community that you can do this on your own term, and you could do it healthy, and you could do it happy, is an incredible story that this sport needed. Now, I do have to say, who the hell is the Etsy witch that was poking at the doll at the triple combination of the Japanese women? How could both Kaori Sakamoto and Amni Nakai, both of the Japanese women, how could they both have identical mistakes on their triple combination? I don't care what anybody says. I believe Ekaterina Teamplushenko is the Etsy witch. She was the one poking at the dolls backstage to make the Japanese women have the mistake on their triple combination. I saw needles in her hand. I didn't see the doll, but I saw needles. It definitely was Ekaterina Teamplushenko. I know it. Anyways, I just want to blame everything on Ekaterina Teamplushenko. I do just want to blame everything on Ekaterina Teamplushenko. But what an incredible women's competition this was. Now, as the figure skating portion of the Olympic concluded and we crowned the champion and we award the medalist, I see a lot of people on skating Twitter angry at the scores given to Adelia Petrosian and Alyssa Liu. And this had me wondering, is this because of the overwhelming power of the Russian and US Figure Skating Federation? Or is this because of the complete incompetency of the Japanese Figure Skating Federation? Because the 2 other federations fight so hard for their skaters. The Russian Federation fights so hard for its skaters that the ISU is literally terrified to give Russian skaters as much as an edge call, while the Japanese Federation just allows its skaters to be buried without even filing a complaint. And while people may want to be angry at Alyssa, let us keep in mind that while the judges from the other federation were overscoring their skaters, the Japanese judge was the one who buried Kaori Sakamoto in 4th place. He's the one who put her in 4th place. Instead of being like every other judge and inflating his skater's score, he decided to bury her in 4th place. The system is problematic from top to bottom. We have commentators like Tara and Johnny who are highly paid and have their comfy position gifted to them by the network. As such, they literally are there to follow the network script. So this supposed battle between the Russian, Japanese, and Americans, it was just a storyline. They had to pretend that all of these skaters were in the same league. They had to pretend that the scores that these skaters were given was a realistic reflection of their skating. This is what they get their big fat checks for. Honestly, my relationship with the governing body of figure skating is so negative. My expectation is so low that I had honestly already come to terms with the fact that Adelia was going to get an 80 in the short program and she was going to win the Olympic medal. I was surprised that that's not what happened. I was not surprised as I watched all of the skaters who went after Adelia being buried in order to keep her in the top 6 so that she could skate with the final pairs. Listen, Ekaterina has access to all of that good poo and money, and she puts it to good use. She puts it to good use. And this goes to the heart of the corruption of the ISU. More than it has anything to do with a skater, with a federation, it has to do with the governing body itself being so corrupt. And I don't think we necessarily need to put this on one skater or another. Yes, it would have been ideal if Karawi won. Unfortunately, it didn't play out that way. Alyssa had her Olympic moment, and that cannot be taken away from her. What needs to happen is, one, the Japanese Figure Skating Federation needs to get their shit together. And two, we, the fans, the skaters, the coaches, the choreographers, everyone involved in skating need to hold accountable the International Skating Union, the judges, and the tech callers. Overall, guys, I am drained. I am emotionally exhausted. I am glad we have some time off before Worlds so I can just process everything that happened in figure skating. This was my take on the 2026 individual event for figure skating, the women's portion. And as always, we say in figure skating, the blades are thin, the ice is slippery, and anything that can happen in figure skating will happen. So to the skaters, we say, may the blades be ever in your favor.